everybody, my name is Violet Chantal, and welcome back to Violet's Film Nights. Yes, yes, yes. I am really excited for this one this evening. If anyone is coming back from watching, the first two Violet Film Nights videos I did, the first one was for Hayao Miyazaki's incredible film Spirited Away. That was such an awesome first one to do for the series. And then a few days ago, recently, I did the second one, which was for Cheryl Dunier's The Watermelon Woman. That film I loved also. I know anyone who's watching any of those videos and is watching this one, thank you so genuinely so much. I'm really excited to be back for this one. I hope everyone's just doing well in general and they're staying safe and they're healthy and same with their friends, families, and all their loved ones. And so let's get into this one. This evening, this night, this video, we're going to be switching lanes a little bit this evening. And we're going to be talking about a documentary. Yes. This is another first time watch for me. And this is one of the documentaries I've been wanting to watch the most. The documentaries I haven't seen. And I am pretty excited about this one. And the film we're going to be watching tonight is a film by Hal Reinert, and it is called For All Mankind. Yes. Oh my goodness. I am really excited about this one. I'm going to be watching this one on this Criterion Collection Blu-ray that I'm buying from local library, and I'm just so excited. This is one that I knew about this film for like years, like about a decade or so. I got into the Criterion Collection back in 2014, so it's been about a decade or so. This is a very early spine number. This is spine 54, if I remember correctly. So this is very early into the collection. But I never got around to watching this one. And about I think did they do the 4K for this one 2 years ago now? I think it was 2 years ago they did the 4K for this one. When they started doing 4K Ultra HD releases, they did do an upgrade for this one. And I remember when that got announced, I was like, oh, maybe I should blind buy this one because I'm sure it would look great in 4K. So I looked up some visuals from this one, and I was like, oh my goodness, this looks amazing. I never ended up blind buying it, and so we just have the regular Blu-ray here from our local library. I am sure it's still going to look fantastic, and so I'm really excited to check out this release for it. This is also the 133:1 version. There is a 185:1 version that I know is on the 4K. I don't think it's on this one. I believe that was the original theatrical aspect ratio for this one. This came out in 1989 in theaters. The 133:1 is like the original intended aspect ratio, and that's the one I'd like to watch more so anyways. I love 133:1. I love 143:1, like the IMAX 70mm aspect ratio. I love those kind of aspect ratios. And so I'm excited to watch it in that version. And so this film, what do I know about this one? I know basically the plot to this one. This is the I know the plot to this one. That's really saying a lot about it. I do know what this film is about. This is not like Spirited Away and The Watermelon where I went to decently pretty blind. This one I know is about I believe it's the first 9 Apollo moon missions and the 24 people who visited the moon, with NASA. And, that whole, journey, and stuff like that. For the longest time, I thought this film was just about, the Apollo 11 mission only for some reason. But no, it's about, the first 9 Apollo missions. And I didn't even, of course, because not knowing that, I didn't realize until, today, that this one is basically a compilation of sorts, but it's an art documentary piece of taking the footage from the first 9 Apollo missions and adding them into one continuous journey and showing that in a documentary, in a film kind of artistic kind of statement. And I think that is so ambitious and just so cool. And I'm sure it's going to make this even more of an emotionally fulfilling watch, in a lot of ways, because you're going to be seeing so many people's lives just be completely changed. I just think that it just seems just such a cool concept for a film. And the one other thing too about this one that I am very excited for. This is the thing I'm most excited for about this film, admittedly. I'm shameless about ambient music. That's my favorite genre of music. Brian Eno does the music for this one. And it's ambient. I am aware of. I've not heard any music from this film actually, and so I am really excited. Ambient music is my favorite genre of music. Ambient music just speaks to me in a way that art forms art forms just don't really do. Genres and stuff like that in music and just art in general. And I'm just so excited to hear it and just to see it accompany these beautiful images I know I'm about to see. And I'm just excited. I'm just really excited. And so yeah, so this one I know is very short. It's 80 minutes long. It's from 1989. And so I think I'm gonna go pop this in down the Blu-ray player, and I will see y'all when I'm all set up. So yeah. Okay. So I have the film ready to go. Quick little, I guess also over note for anyone who is interested in this. In the setup section of the Criterion Collection Blu-ray, it does give you an optional option to have identifications for each of the astronauts as they appear on screen. I'm assuming. I'm gonna turn that off. I mean, it sets the default as off, and I'm gonna keep it as off. Just because I'm just assuming the original, like, version of this film in theaters did not have that. And so I just kind of want to experience it as much as, like, I can kind of, as, like, purist to what the filmmakers were looking for. But that is actually a really cool feature, little, like, thing they have on this Blu-ray. And yeah, so let me just turn the lights off now quickly. Alrighty, the lights are off. Let's just go ahead and do this one. So yeah, so this main menu is very interesting. It kind of just shows like the mission control stuff, I'm assuming. And I think that's pretty cool. It keeps it kind of ambiguous and kind of mysterious as what exactly I'm about to see. But I think that's pretty cool. And so yeah, alrighty, so without further ado, everybody, here we go for the third Violet Film Nights. We're gonna do For All Mankind. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, play. Okay, let's turn the sound on. There we go. Where's that Criterion Collection logo? Where is it? It's like, there we go. There we go, everybody. All right, I'll see y'all soon. Alrighty, woohoo. Okay. I just finished the film. And that was very good. That was very, very good. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna do some more research actually into this one, and then I'll come back and talk about it. But that was very good. Oh my goodness. So I've spent the last hour or so now just like researching a little bit and like reading some things, and I also watched the entirety of the Criterion Collection documentary that's on this Blu-ray that's called An Accidental Gift, which is about the making of For All Mankind. And it was really, really good. Like, there was some really cool info in it, and like there was just some like really cool like archival stuff in it that I'll reference a little bit in the few minutes. And like it's a really, really good watch. And so if you have this Blu-ray, have the 4K or the DVD or any kind of version of this from 2009 and on, I highly recommend watching it if you haven't. And so yeah, so let's get into this one a bit. This film is fantastic. The appreciation I have for this one has grown over the last hour, and I'm really glad that I took the time to kind of sit with it a little bit more. I think that's something I'm going to start doing moving forward with these Film Nights videos, is I think I'm going to kind of just like let my thoughts kind of simmer a little bit more, for some works. But if I feel like I kind of need a little more time to kind of process them, I want to try to do them all in like the same evening or the same night, or, sometimes every day. I'm not really sure exactly. I don't always film these videos when I do film them, but, I want to kind of let the, like my thoughts just sort of like sit with me for a little bit longer. And this is one that I'm really, really glad that I did that for. And there's so much just like power that I understand even more now, just like kind of like processing that this monumental work. Because like some things I was reading that I very, very much agree with is like this is as singular of a vision as you can possibly get in filmmaking, because these events, these Apollo missions, and some even I believe they include some of the Gemini missions. I think there's some footage in this that is not from Apollo, like very briefly. I think they were called the Gemini missions, I believe, if I remember correctly. And that footage was absolutely sick, and it was so pretty, and it was so cool, and it just felt so like awe-inspiring. But this vision is so singular because these events, the Apollo missions are never, of course, going to happen again. This program finished, I believe, in 1972. Last time, anyone ever visited the moon was Apollo 17, as far as if I'm aware. Hopefully I have my Apollo knowledge and NASA knowledge, okay. My apologies if not. But there is, again, like I said, like, because it was like this like moment in time that was captured of these 24, men that went up to the moon, there's just such like a power to it, because like it can't be recreated, and the thing that's really emotionally powerful about it is it's a singular vision of 24 people and their different memories and different feelings. This film is really about the feeling of it all, and that's where you find the most power and connection in art, is for the feeling of, and the feeling that you as a viewer get from it. And this film is showing these, one of the most grand, biggest, most groundbreaking, life-changing moments in the history of, of the world. And we're seeing it, through the perspective, so deeply of these astronauts, but like we're focusing so much on their feeling, and so as a viewer, you're watching it in awe, and it makes the feeling even like grander. And so on a cinematic level, there's so much here to unpack, and there's so much that feels just so like tangible, even though you're watching one of the most like intangible things like you feel like ever. Like going to the freaking moon, like it's crazy, it's wild. It's been over 50 years now, of course, and it still is just insane. It's crazy. I mean, there's nothing else I feel like I can really like say about it, to really, I mean, it's one of the most well documented things ever, especially Apollo 11. There's just so much just like that you can say about it in terms of its awe and its wonder and its magic and just like the beauty of it, and the power of it, but like it truly is special how well, Al Reiner and everybody that he worked with on this film, they put together, this footage, this archival footage from NASA, and put it into this like narrative experience and crafted like, like the interviews and let the astronauts tell the stories. And for the footage that they shot, themselves, but also NASA, positioning cameras, because they talk about in the documentary that all this footage was used just in case like, something went wrong. Like a lot of NASA stuff, of like, the Saturn rocket taking off, and stuff, the different like stages of it, like that camera's positioned and going off at certain times, just be like, okay, if something goes wrong, because of course, it's well documented, other previous Apollo missions and just missions in general with NASA, had some very sad and really, very extremely sad results at times, unfortunately. And so, just like trying to document that, on 16 millimeter cameras that they developed. And just seeing that footage be repurposed and cut together into this cinematic, like, narrative story that you as a viewer are going along for on this, of course, I mean, the scale, it's the biggest scale as you can possibly get, for a film. And just seeing those images in, like, this beautiful 133 by 1 aspect ratio, and it looks so huge and so large. I would love to see this one in theaters. I feel like it would be so good. I mean, if they ever do like a big release of this, like IMAX, like get on this, like genuinely. And I would just love to see it like on that scale. But I was watching it at home. I have a 70-inch TV, and just seeing it like on just like viewed on that big of a scale on a gorgeous Criterion Collection Blu-ray also, like the Blu-ray for this looks excellent. I can't imagine how good that 4K looks. I definitely think I'm gonna purchase that in the future because I would love to see that. I also know that has the 185 by 1 aspect ratio also, which that would be interesting to see. I mean, the 133 is gonna. I mean, the 133 is the way to watch it, of course, but 185 by 1 would be interesting to see, like like a full kind of like 16 by 9 image, or so. But 185 by 1 actually has like slight little black bars. I just feel like just like seeing that footage that NASA had for like its research purposes, and like the talk about in the documentary, the main thing that NASA was kind of going for in the in the government and just like in general was like the lunar like kind of like odyssey they were going on was like the space, I believe I think the term was like the space soars, or just like like trying to get to the moon before like Russia did, for example. I think that's exactly what was going on, like politically. There's a beginning, footage of, John F. Kennedy, talking about, that a little bit, and then, that's kind of cut to repurpose it to fit more of like, like the emotional feeling this documentary is kind of going for. And, there is an excellent, thing that they, they point out is like, there is this plaque during Apollo 11 that they drop onto the moon, and they talk about, and, and I believe, actually, I think it says here in the Criterion Collection booklet at the very end, it says, "We came in peace for all mankind." And, like trying to achieve this, like, level of peace, and, like, showing people what is possible and exciting people, but also, like, putting to end, like, this tension. And I feel like this film just captures, like, the human elements so well. Like, the fact that they repurposed, Al and his crew, repurposed all of this imagery and just to showcase like the feeling of everything so well and so effectively is just astonishing, and it's really inspiring to see. Like I just love, like, for example, I think like one of the most powerful things thematically I can think of is at the beginning of the film, when they're first getting into like the rocket, they talk about how there's like a window and it's showing right near the moon, and it's like, oh, we're about to launch right near that, we're about to launch, go to it. And it's just like things like that like as a viewer, like you're watching it being like, wow, like these men were put into a situation where it's like they're like about to change the world, and they're just sitting there, waiting, with like, mission control and stuff like that, where they're looking out the window and the moon is just right there. They're just looking at the moon being like, we're about to go up there. Like it's stuff like that thematically is so brilliant, and it is like an accidental gift in a way, but it's such a miracle and it's such a blessing that this footage would capture in the way it was, because, it was just like, NASA putting stuff together, for research purposes, but also it was just like, they talk about like the astronauts and the crew members just like filming stuff they thought was pretty and cool, you know. And a lot of astronauts talk about just like the feeling of seeing like, you know, like the globe shape of the Earth, and you know, just like the darkness of like the infinite like time that space is. Trying to capture that feeling as much as you can visually, and just like, you know, for like a memory's sake, and you have like different like memories of certain things and stuff like that. And it's just like remarkable. It's so remarkable. And I, you know, of course, I think a big shout out, you know, that I have to give, you know, of course, is to the editing here. I believe the editing fully for this. They talk in the documentary. There was help by some of the NASA editors and film correspondents and stuff like that, which are a major shout out to them. But the editing for like the film itself was mainly done by Susan Corda, and then also I think Al Reiner did help a little bit, of course, you know, with it as the director. And seriously, like a major props, because this is not an easy film to edit at all. Like you're combining so much visually from different Apollo missions, but you're also, you know, trying to incorporate like, you know, the narrative, like, you know, interviews and stuff, the excerpts of those interviews with the astronauts, having them guide the story forward and having them push it forward and stuff like that. And you know, like, you know, putting, you know, together like, you know, when do we have certain quotes come into play, you know, when do we start playing them, and what images do we correspond with, because you know, they talk about in the documentary also how there's a bunch of, you know, quotes, or there's just like lines of dialogue, or just like, you know, these interview excerpts that like they're showing a completely different astronaut times. And you know, when they screened the film at a premiere, I believe in Texas, you know, none of the astronauts had any complaints, because it's that odyssey together, and that's that journey, and that's that life-changing, life-altering experience that these men had together, you know. And it's like, it's their own journey, you know, like they're all different, of course, you know, like they have their own subtleties. And then there's stuff like Apollo 13, you know, where things, you know, really went bad, you know, in a lot of ways, of course. But you know, in terms of ones, you know, where like, you know, they were, you know, everybody got back, you know, safely and stuff like that. But still, like that journeyhood, and that's that brotherhood, you know, and it's that like friendship and, you know, connection, and like that's as like emotional of connection as you can get, you know, because there's only so many, like, you know, 24 people who ever, you know, got to, you know, like fully, you know, reach the moon, you know. And you know, not all of them, you know, were able to step foot on the moon, of course, but you know, the ones that did, of course, I mean, you know, like just like the thought of like, you know, touching the moon, and like, you know, just like being on there, and like, you know, taking like the first steps, you know, and stuff like that. And it's just, it's so, it's just, it's one of those concepts that's so hard to grasp as like, you know, as someone like me. But the documentary does such a great job at just showcasing the footage as it is, but sort of like manipulating it in such like a genuine, authentic way that also fits it so well cinematically, but also pays enough tribute and respect to where the footage is like, you know, was already like standing for, if that makes any sense, you know, of like, you know, showcasing the footage and blowing it up from 60mm to 35mm, and the blow up was done excellently, and it looks fantastic. And you know, and just like taking that footage and just like showing it in such like a pure way, but also like crafting it on a cinematic and emotional level that was just so profound. And of course, I think another thing too that I need to give such, you know, big props to is the music in this, of course, as I mentioned. The music is mainly done not just by Brian Eno, but also his brother Roger Eno and Daniel Lanois, I believe that's how I pronounce his name. Also, Harold Budd was involved with it a little bit, and some other people, which is really, really cool. I'm just turning off of the Criterion Collection booklet there. And the music, I mean, it's just, it's incredible. It's incredible. Like it has like some different like styles throughout it. Like you have a little bit of a guitar, some different uses of you know, chords, but also like, I mean, the soundscapes and the atmosphere, like the soundscapes, and just like that overwhelming just like sense of just like awe, but like hypnotizing and like meditative, you know, like feel of it all. It's just like, this is a very like hypnotizing and meditative film, because you're so like locked in on these like visuals and things you've never seen before, and it's all like just so real, and it's just and it's like, wow, like this is crazy, but it's so meditative, because like you're watching, you know, you're listening and also watching these astronauts sort of like contemplate like existence in a way at times, and you know, like the insignificance that like the Earth kind of has in the whole solar system kind of sphere. But down there, like you have like your friends and your family, and you know, but like you're having an experience that like is changing your life and is making you like view the world completely differently, like, you know. And I feel like just like all of it comes together on a cinematic level that is so profound and powerful. And it is, again, the same one more time, it is remarkable just how tangible they make those sensations and those feelings and those memories feel as an audience member, you know, because it's really hard to capture that, especially, you know, when you're taking footage that, you know, wasn't, you know, intended, as like a filmmaking kind of thing. It was just like, in like NASA for research purposes, and them just kind of like, like having fun and, like filming stuff, and being like, oh, this is pretty cool, it's remarkable in a lot of ways. And one thing too, I also have to say is the film also sounds fantastic. I mean, I think like the music sounds, I mean, just great in general. Like its sound mix wise is very, very good. I mean, the look of it, I mean, it looks fantastic. They took the original camera negatives or so, I believe, and then blew for 60 millimeter, and then blew them up to a 35 millimeter like master that they used for the film, and it looks gorgeous. I think it's so just like impressive, that whole process, and it's really cool that Al and his team were able to to do that and get those like original like 60 millimeter reels in that film and blow it up to 35 millimeter. I think it's just so just like inspiring as like somebody who like loves the art and finds it so inspiring. Film is such a ambitious art form in concept, and you're really going there with this one, documentary wise. And I think just like the repurposing of all the footage, but also the care that was taken, by NASA, to blow up that film, is it's incredible, and it's inspiring, all these years later. This film came out in 1989, and it's just remarkable, looking back all these decades later at just how just amazing this footage is. Putting everything like together and just like the feeling of the film. Like this is a film about feeling. I mean when I think about film, I try to focus on like the feeling it gives me the most, and like the emotion I feel during it, like I get into a little bit of course, like technical kind of aspects and stuff like that, because I do have an interest in that, of course. But I really focus on the feeling that the film gives me. And this film is about the feeling. Like Al, talked about how, like, listen, like, the science stuff is, what the purpose of, NASA's, mission was. But, like, for the American public and just people in general, they care about, like, like the images and, like, the feeling this mission gave them and the hope it gave them. And just, like, the sense of new and the sense of just, like, oh my gosh, that it gave them. And just, like, seeing these images and just, like, that complete sense of just like speechlessness. And I think that this film does a really good job of showing that. I mean, they show like mission control, when they reach, like the orbit, or they reach the moon, and just like just like the looks on their faces of just like gratification and just like just wowness, and those moments are beautiful to see too. I think this film just does a really good job of just seamlessly showing all of these journeys and all these odysseys, that these astronauts went on. And, again, it's a hard film to edit, you're putting together a lot of feeling and a lot of memories and just like a lot of just different, just like vignettes and stuff like that. And it does it just so well. And it has just like such like a natural just like force to like the imagery and the sensations that the film is trying to provide you. I think this is a remarkable documentary, and I can totally see why it's so well celebrated. I mean, it's fantastic. And this is one I definitely could see myself, if I were to research a bit more into like NASA or space, that I could even appreciate even more, because it is super interesting and it is super fascinating, of course. And I think it's just like a really, really good documentary, and it's also just fun to watch at points. Like it's fun to watch. Just like astronauts like have fun in space, and just like listening to music and like how like they're eating food and other things and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think it's just like really cool. And of course, when they get to the moon, of course, like that stuff is pretty. I mean, unbelievable too. And so yeah, I think this film is great. Like it's genuinely great. I just love just like the feeling it provides by capturing those astronauts' genuine emotions and feelings and memories and letting them tell the story, but repurposing all this footage in such a clever and brilliant way. And it's creative too. And this is documentary filmmaking at its finest. And I gotta say too, if you have the chance, like definitely this Criterion release is awesome. I can't really show the disc art because it has some library info on it, but it's of the Earth. But like I love here how it has like the moon and stuff, like, taking, that kind of center there, where the disc is. And I don't know, I just think stuff like that is, release wise. And I read a little bit of the booklet, I read a little bit of like, like Al's, Reinert's, little section in there, and a little bit of the other piece in there, and, the documentary. Like, it's a great release. This one was awesome. And I'm really glad that I watched it for this series. And so yeah, so those are just some of my thoughts on For All Mankind. It's a great film, and I'm so glad that I watched it. It's magical, and it's just a special film. It's such a singular vision in time and a moment in time, and it's a memory that is significant for a reason. So that's my thoughts on For All Mankind. Thank you for watching this. If you have stayed this long, I'm excited to do some more of these soon. I am enjoying these. I feel like I'm getting kind of the hang of it a little bit more, as we get along. I'm glad I did some more like research and stuff like that, just like kind of read some more thoughts, watched some things, before I got on camera and kind of talked about it, and I think I'm going to do that a little bit more moving forward, like I said. And so I look forward to the future of the series. And so that is my thoughts on For All Mankind. So thank you all again for watching, and again, I hope everybody's doing well. And I'll see y'all in the next one. And yeah, so see you all for that. Alrighty, bye everybody.